Study. My name's Peta Estens, and I was a rower. I rowed for about 10 years. I had a bad back as a teenager before I found rowing. I'd had spinal surgery at the age of 15, I think. And so I actually ended up retiring because of injuries. So my career highlights, at 19, pretty quickly I found my way in the sport and rowed in a quad at the under-23 regatta in Hamburg. And then a few years later I won bronze in the single at a University World Championship, but had a great time rowing for New South Wales in Queen's Cups, and representing UTS for many years as well. I cycled for Yorkshire. I had a break in my rowing career and moved over to Yorkshire and did road cycling in a team there for a while, and that was also to help with my training. In the end, I retired because of injuries. In 6 months, the last 6 months of my rowing, I had a stress fracture, a torn pectoral, I had a displaced knee, stress fracture of the rib. So if you can't train hard for 6 months, then you know you can't race well, and there's no fun in that for me, so I retired. There were many skills that I transferred across post my sporting career. I think the most beneficial one was time management. Rowing, there's so much involved in that in terms of time, early mornings and 20 hour weeks of training on top of study and work because there's no money in it. I've learnt to be able to see like macro end goals, long-term goals and short-term goals, and map out a pathway. Even though Ellen, my old coach, would say I probably never successfully completed a program. It was such a big program with tough program, lovely coach. So I've also learned to be flexible as well with my goals and adjust them. The best skill I think I learned was that it's not always just being good at your game. There's two games in life. There's your sport, but there's also the politics. And I think that also is something in careers that you learn to do the job as best you can, but also to play whatever games, because there are so many in society. So it was learning that temperament, as well as time management, that I've certainly transferred through post sporting career. Continuing being active, I think getting involved in a surf club and the master's program, whilst I can not actually train as hard as I used to. I could never do that again because my body has certainly taken it's taken a toll on my body. Probably training at like 70% always, and then from time to time enjoying the odd race has helped me. If I'm not active, then I'm not happy. So staying as a part of team, as a club environment, has been really positive. What's difficult is not having times where you don't have really challenging goals. The need to always have something to chase is something that's hard. Just being comfortable with what's been achieved and riding it, I think, is hard. Like having to do then, for instance, then I threw myself into a lot of research projects straight after retirement and was published. I was not an academic, and I very quickly became an academic. Was on panels at Sydney University and published in academic journals, and I think it was, in hindsight, a bit unhealthy that there was this thirst to conquer something new. And I'm still grappling with that. I won Coolangatta Gold last year, and I do reflect. I was talking to a girl I paddle with about, she's quite young, and I think she's got that similar beast, and it's being okay with your job and your house and your relationships without trying to achieve something grand. And I don't know if that's ego, but it's certainly something that's taking time. Like 10 years now I am retired, and I'm reflective of that. I think athletes should constantly be sculpting a professional career. It's interesting, this question focuses on athletes preparing for life after sport, and we do tend to think about life after sport as a job, but I think also relationships I mean, I'm divorced, but I don't think it's easy to date or be with somebody who's been driven in a sport, because it can be really selfish. You get like lots of attentions, you get physio and your coach and sometimes nutritionists or sports psychologists, and everyone's just focusing on you and how you can be the best you can possibly be, and it's also in a very narrow way. And that focus on a program, you're very self-aware, so that's not normal. And to have that much attention and to be, it's healthy to be self-reflective, but athletes can, I think, navel gaze a lot. And so making sure that we're preparing for life after sport should be from the moment we become an athlete. And that includes then, I think, nurturing others in a workplace, nurturing relationships. There's got to be more giving. And it should totally be possible to build when you're playing, although arguably that's also why I didn't make an Olympics as part of 3 Olympic pursuits. But some of my friends stopped studying at university or delayed for 6 months or even 2 years and just totally committed and moved to Canberra and trained. And I just, I wasn't in a position to be able to do that in terms of having that family support. It was tough, and I wouldn't have wanted to. I really enjoyed the balance that university gave me. If I was having a tough month of training or, juggling with my injuries, having that study was a really good way to keep me positive, having that in my life. And at that time I was living with a boyfriend as well, so I wasn't really prepared to and doing well, actually, rowing well. So didn't feel the need to jump into a full-time program. So I think immediately when an athlete becomes, when it crosses from being a hobby to becoming a professional sport, there should be immediate preparation for life. Sport should be a part of our life, not our life, always. The challenges I think the current generation of players have is media, social media, especially representation of women in sport. I was on a panel a couple of years ago with Rebecca Gilmore and actually sports physiologist from the RAS and Rebecca Gilmore, the diver, and we were talking about women in sport, representation of women in sport. And I think it's pretty brutal how quickly and fast, like, reputations, images, performances are showcased, even if it's just amongst your own social networks on Facebooks, and you have that poor performance or a great performance, and it's going to be known by family members, cousins, friends, colleagues in an instant, where in my generation it was just sort of emerging. It wasn't as blatant and rampant and accepted. Actually, one thing I don't like is drones when I'm out at sea paddling, as an example of just how you can be captured and put online when you don't want to be. There's a lot of highs and lows. And when I see athletes either devastated or overwrought emotions and it's just on my screen in media, I feel for them. Yeah, I wouldn't want that.